of the 5 games.
In honor.
For Edmonton. The Winnipeg Jets will start with Howardchuk between McLean and Mullen. For the Edmonton Oilers, it's Messier, flanked by Anderson and Nielsen. The fans at Northlands Coliseum responding. A loud roar as the puck is dropped to get the game underway as it's fired in. The whistle goes and they'll face off back just outside the Edmonton blue line. Harry, Glenn Sather today was encouraging Edmonton fans to make some noise in the building, stressing the importance of a crowd responding to the hometown heroes.
Well, you must have seen those Winnipeg fans get wired for the game. It certainly does help. And you have to win your home games if you're going to be successful, and hometown fans can be worth a goal. That's what some coaches tell you.
Kevin Lowe behind his own net. Craig Muni up along the boards. Kent Nielsen. He goes rink wide to Glenn Anderson. This trio is dynamite in the series against the Los Angeles Kings. Anderson with that great speed, getting it out front. It comes to the line to Muni. Muni to Kent Nielsen. His shot off the side of the net. Dave Elliott ahead to Brian Mullen. He tried to get it out. Craig Muni kept it in. And it's back to the Winnipeg goal where Brad Perry takes a big hit against the board from Mark Messier. Messier to Nielsen. Shot saved by Berthiaume. The early going, Harry. This line has been all over Winnipeg.
Well, this is a very strong line. They're quick, and Messier, of course, is really physical as he just about killed Barry there. And that may be the matchup that Sather's looking for. We'll see soon whether Maloney tries to avoid it.
Kevin Lowe back into his own zone. He was the leading defenseman in the plus-minus category this year. Dave Hunter in across the line, stopped at the line by Mario Marois. Paul Coffey dishes out a check to Neufeld. Here comes Boston, 2-on-1, he scores!
Now there's absolutely nothing better for Winnipeg to come in here and get a quick goal. They've been on a roll, as we all know, beating Calgary. Coffey got caught throwing a check to give the 2-on-1 to watch Boston. He takes a quick look like he's going to pass it, then he shoots it. And he gets Fuhrer to open up just a bit, and he puts it in. Here's another viewpoint now. I think Boston wants to pass. He changes his mind, and you can see Fuhrer guessed a bit and guessed wrong.
Neufeld draws an assist on that goal. He took the hit from Paul Coffey at the blue line. And as you said, Harry, Coffey got trapped as a result.
Well, I know Coffey's trying to get into the game and get involved because he hasn't played very much in the playoffs, but he pinched at the wrong time.
So the Winnipeg Jets, Boschman from Neufeld at 1:20 in front by a score of 1-0. Craig McTavish forced back into his own zone, gets it ahead to Hunter. Hunter to McClelland, a long shot, knocked down at the line by Carlisle. Back comes Winnipeg, led by Neufeld, working against Huddy. He crosses at the blue line with Rooney going for the net. Neufeld gets it out in front. McTavish cleared it away. The Winnipeg Jets with the first goal of this series. Laurie Boschman scoring. And now Randy Carlisle dumps it in. Picked up by Reijo Ruotsalainen. To Randy Gregg, a long pass intercepted in the center ice area by Smale and dumped back in. The Jet theory, I believe, is that they have to forecheck the others. Here's Steen with a shot. It's blocked by Gregg, and back comes Gretzky. Gretzky drops it in across the line for Yari Curry, intercepted by Doug Smale. For Jim Kite. Kite to Thomas Steen. Across the Edmonton line, checked by Gretzky. Gretzky ahead to Curry. He has Tikkanen with him, looking for Ruotsalainen as well, and the pass was too far, broken up by the Jets and dumped back down the ice.
There's no question about the fact that Winnipeg's quickness will be a factor in this series. It's good when they forecheck, and they're a dangerous team on the rush.
Randy Gregg to Curry, played it back to him. He was tied up, and Paul McLean had decked us a Tikkanen. There's going to be a penalty here, a delayed penalty call against the Winnipeg Jets. Paul McLean going off. The Stanley Cup playoffs on CBC, coming to you from Edmonton.
Paul McLean gets a holding penalty at the 3-minute mark. And the Edmonton power play, which was really potent here in the Northlands Coliseum against LA, where they had 8 goals in 16 attempts, have a chance to tie the game up. But that Winnipeg penalty killing has been great all year.
Well, against Winnipeg during the course of the season, the Oilers scored only 4 goals on 34 power play opportunities, 11.8% their efficiency rating on the power play.
Well, their power play hasn't been nearly as good as you would think it would when you see the 5 guys they can put out there, and they've got another unit that's just about as good as this one. But I think they pass too much and don't get enough goals that are not so pretty, but they all count.
Wilson and Doug Smale out there for Winnipeg, killing off this penalty. Messier leads the attack. He dumps it in. Driving in after it is Anderson. He's checked by Kite. Puck loose in the corner. Messier battling for it. It comes around the boards. Coffey pinching in from the point. Keeps it in for Gretzky. Gretzky tried to play it back to the line. Intercepted by Smale and dumped the length of the ice.
Well, Edmonton like to get the line, get the puck to Gretzky, and let him set the whole thing up. They have excellent point men as far as shots are concerned, but they don't like to shoot as much as I know say they would like them to.
Messier working to the corner. Anderson going for the front of the net. Messier still controlling it despite the checking. Dave Allen head out front as it went across to Anderson. Nobody in position. Now along the boards, the Jets get it to the line, and Andrew McBain dumps it out.
Well, Winnipeg attacks the puck. You know, the old days you used to sit back in the box, but no more in the National League. And the better penalty-killing teams go right after the puck carrier and gamble that if you don't give them any time, you can't make the play once tonight.
Paul Coffey with that great head of steam as he comes in across the line. Gretzky picks it up in the corner, back of the net. 38 seconds remaining in the penalty to Paul McLean, to the line to Randy Gray. Over to the other point. Fired in and gloved and held by Daniel Bertillon.
You can see what Edmonton does here. They leave Gretzky on for the whole 2 minutes, and they alternate his line mates. He has Curry and Tikkanen, or he has Messier and Anderson. And then Edmonton changes their point men. They have Coffey out there with Kent Nielsen quite often, or they bring out Ruotsalainen and play Greg a little bit. So they've got 2 powerful units. They ought to have an excellent power play, but except for the home games against LA, it hasn't been as awesome as you'd think it would be.
Fellow you coached in Vancouver, having an outstanding year for Winnipeg.
Mario Marois playing all-star hockey. He can pass the puck, and he's mean, and he'll lay that wood on you if he thinks he has to.
Back to the line, Ruotsalainen over to Nielsen. Back to Ruotsalainen, into the corner. Tikkanen to Gretzky, back to the point. Ruotsalainen with a shot deflected, but Joan got a piece of it. Wilson along the boards, plays it out with 11 seconds remaining in the penalty. 15:07 the time left in the period as the Oilers fired it in, and it went over the glass and out of play.
Well, I don't think the players knew where that puck went. Certainly Bertillon didn't know, and he was looking around hoping it wasn't sitting in a dangerous spot. And Paul McLean, who's cut out a lot of the foolish retaliation penalties he used to get, of course works so well with Howard Chuck. I don't know whether they've ever played very long apart. If they have, I can't believe that they were nearly as effective apart as they are together.
And of course, Paul McLean, out of the lineup for about 3 weeks, came back late in the year, and he said one of the reasons for his improved play in the playoffs was that he had that rest before going into postseason activity.
Well, Paul's not a great skater, and he has to work hard to get where he wants to go, and they play him a lot. He might have a point there.
There's some skaters who would find it hard to believe, but he only sharpens his skates about 4 times a year. Maybe that has something to do with the trouble he has.
Well, you know, Gordie Howe used to sharpen his skates once a month. But if you watch Gordie play, he never stopped. He always was on the turn. I don't know whether McLean learned that from Howe. He doesn't remind me of Howe. Nothing against him.
Ruotsalainen dropped it for McTavish. He tried to get around Kite, and the big Winnipeg defenseman stopped him. Tried to clear it, kept in by the Oilers. A shot right on, and Bertillon had a little difficulty with that before steering it off to the corner. Lead pass. McLean was looking for Howard Chuck on a breakaway. Intercepted. Here comes McTavish. He dodges the check. The puck goes loose along the boards, and it's dumped out by Paul McLean. 14:24 the time remaining in the opening period. 1-0 the Winnipeg Jets leading. on a goal by Laurie Boschman, set up by Ray Neufeld. Craig McTavish flips it in. Big bounce off the end boards. Tim Waters has it for Winnipeg. He tried to play it out, put it over the glass, and out of play. 14:08 is the time remaining in the first period. Winnipeg ahead on the goal by Boschman.
Just when it seemed gray was the only color, and rainbows were the look you were trying for, then along came Tracer.
Mercury Tracer, the import that Ford built. Now at your Mercury dealer.
Hey, Tracer.
Mo LeMay comes out with Mike Krushelnyski and Marty McSorley. And many felt that the Oilers, Harry, would try and use all four lines in this series.
I think they might, although I will say this. In my opinion, if it gets into a four-line from each team's viewpoint, Winnipeg's third and fourth group is a little more dangerous and a little better than Edmonton.
Laurie Boschman, as he did against Calgary, will take almost all those face-offs in his own zone. He had something like an 80% ratio. Here's a chance for the Oilers. Up to Lowe, and a save. Berthiaume was down and made the stop on Kevin Lowe. It comes driving in from the blue line. Brad Berry shoots it in. Left there for Lowe. He plays it over to the other corner. Craig Muni takes a hit. Lowe forced to handle it again in his own zone as the Jets are forechecking the Oilers deep in their own zone. Loose puck in the center ice area. Krushelnyski for Muni. Over on the right side. McSorley takes a bump. It comes back to the line. Muni couldn't control it, and it's dumped out by Winnipeg.
One thing you have to watch against Edmonton are their point men sneaking off the blue line into the slot like Lowe did. They all do it well, and of course the two that scare the life right out of you are Rock the line and then Coffey when they do it.
McSorley deflected it into the Winnipeg zone. Going back after it is Randy Carlyle. Carlyle is checked by Glenn Anderson. Waters plays it around the boards for Carlyle. Carlyle's pass picked up by Coffey. Coffey drops it out for Anderson. A shot. That went wide. Picked up behind the net by Frederick Olofsson. And the Oilers are doing some forechecking themselves.
Well, these two teams, if you measured the speed of their forwards, I think you'd find that you're seeing the two teams with the fastest group of forwards in the league.
Stolen by Nielsen. Nielsen trying to set up, lets the shot go off the glass. Big rebound picked up there by Carlyle, and Carlyle dumps it out. Paul Coffey, who missed all but the opening game of that Los Angeles series, anxious to play in this series against Winnipeg. Played up around the boards for Tikkanen. He can't get out. The Jets keeping it in. Thomas Steen dumps it into the corner. Gretzky has it there. He drops it around the boards for Charlie Huddy. To Yari Curry. His pass goes off the skates, and the Oilers are forced back into their own zone. Gretzky tries it again. He's matched up against Dale Hawerchuk. There were many who speculated that the two top centers for their respective clubs would be going head-to-head. Curry gets it back to the line for Gregg. Gregg shoots it into the corner. Hawerchuk and Gretzky are there battling along the boards for it. It goes loose with Jim Kite gaining control. Playing it around for Marois. His pass intercepted. Curry with a shot. Saved by Berthiaume. And Berthiaume covers up as Marois bumps with Tikkanen. A whistle with 11:30 left in the period. Against the Oilers in regular season play. A loose puck that Berthiaume pokes to the boards. Picked up by Curry. Curry looking in front for Gretzky. It comes back to the line. Over to the other side to the line, and his shot right on. Berthiaume thought there was an Oiler there, was going to cover up, then decided to play it. Boschman has it along the boards, tried to get it out, put it into the crowd, out of play with 11:09 left in the period.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how Dan Maloney has got his troops going to play Gretzky and setting up behind the net. We always thought that if you got him out of there, to the backhand if you can right away, then everybody knew where he was. If you let him choose which side to come out, who knew where he was going?
John Ferguson had some complimentary things to say to you today about the play of Ray Neufeld in the Calgary series.
He sure did, and I think that there's no doubt about it that Neufeld will play with a little burr under his saddle. His quality of play will go up quite quickly, and you don't like playing against him. But unfortunately, some nights he doesn't. That's not in his playbook. Here's the guy. Now, I've done a fair number of Edmonton games this year, and I think that this fellow right here, McTavish, is the first or most underrated player, and second or most consistent player. I never saw him play a bad game, and quite often he was among the 3 or 4 best Oilers.
Face off to the left of Berthiaume. The shots on goal reading 6-2 so far in favor of the Oilers, but the Jets lead at 1-0. The goal by Laurie Boschman from Neufeld at 1:20. From the face-off, Jim Kite plays it around on the boards, but Kevin Lowe pinches in to keep it in there for the Oilers. Good hit on Boschman as the puck comes loose. Craig McTavish has it. The Oilers very aggressive in the early going. The shot just goes wide. A battle for it. It's on the mesh back of the Winnipeg net.
Well, that's the kind of play that if McClellan will play that way, he can be an asset. If you ask any defenseman in the National League, they want to know where this guy is at all times because he can deliver some resounding body checks.
Number 4 choice by Hartford in 1980. Went to Pittsburgh in 81 and then to the Edmonton Oilers in 1983.
Yes.
6'2", 200 pounds. He's got the size.
And he likes to run into you. And that's a bad combination if you're a puck carrier.
It's dangerous if you're trying to move out.
I wonder if the layoff, Edmonton's been off for 7 days, will cause them some problems early in this first game.
Well, you were speculating earlier today that it might cause the Red Wings some problem in their series with Toronto, and it appears to have caused them some difficulty.
Well, 9 days at this time of the year is way too much, except if you're half hurt and kind of trying to make a comeback.
McTavish, working against Thomas Steen, manages to dump it in, but an Edmonton player was offside. Hockey Night in Canada returns in a moment. Oh, but most of the play through the first 9 minutes and 25 seconds, Harry, has been in Winnipeg's end.
Well, there's no question about that, although Berthiaume has only had to make one big stop, and Fuhr hasn't been able to make any, including the one that beat him.
Frederick Olofsson playing a right wing position. He can also be switched back to the blue line. That's actually where he started his NHL career. Trying to dig it out in the corner. He has it, looking out front. Then he's tied up by Craig Muni. Doug Smale gets it. Smale leaves it for Thomas Steen. Steen out front for Smale. Saved by Grant Fuhr. The first big task for the Edmonton netminder. McTavish in across the line. He dumps it off to the corner, and Charlie Huddy races in from the point to keep it in. Knocked down in front by Randy Carlyle. And Winnipeg gets it to the line and out. It was brought back in offside by Paul Coffey. Now a skirmish along the boards in that Winnipeg zone.
I don't know who the main eventers are. It doesn't look like anybody's really upset with anyone else. It seems to be a team skirmish, so to speak. But leading into this series, there was absolutely no sign of hatred or bitterness or anything that usually accompanies the second round of the playoffs, especially in the teams in the same division that have played each other as often as these have. Thomas Steen, Tom Watt, here's Thomas Steen. He does this very well. He can turn away from the man in the defensive zone, and he put that puck right on the Smale stick, and he couldn't beat Fuhr. Tom Watt told me for 3 years, and he still tells me when I talk to him, Thomas Steen is one of the more underrated hockey players in the National League. His production has fallen off, but I guess he was a real factor in the Calgary series.
He played very well against the Flames, and he's one of the more aggressive Swedes in the National Hockey League.
Absolutely, and he used to get himself more than his share of points. I always thought Winnipeg was one of those very strong teams, and they still are, down the middle, with Steen, Howard-Chuck, Boschman, and Ron Wilson, one of the more underrated players in the league, and maybe the best fourth center in the National League.
Paul Coffey in his own zone. Ahead to Messier. Messier drops it over on a right wing for Kent Nielsen, but Dale Howard-Chuck coming back, got to it first. Along the boards for Mullen. Mullen gets it ahead to McLean. McLean working one-on-one against Paul Coffey. McLean with a quick shot. That went off Coffey's leg to the corner. Kept in by Brad Berry. Battle for it at the side of the net. The Oilers come up with it, and Glenn Anderson moves it out of his own zone to Kent Nielsen. Nielsen for Anderson. It was behind him. It's picked up by McLean. He spun around quickly, trying to hit Dale Howard-Chuck with a pass, but there's a penalty on the play, a whistle, and the Edmonton Oilers will be sending a man to the penalty box as Kent Nielsen goes off.
That goon Kent Nielsen's acting up again. John Ferguson's really upset with Lou Nanny that he didn't call John to see if he was interested in moving Kent Nielsen to Winnipeg. He doesn't sit there very often in a hockey game.
He has played well. One of the big things, I think, for Kent Nielsen is that as he sits there with his 2-minute high-sticking liner, is that he doesn't have to be the team leader in Edmonton.
I think that will really benefit him everywhere he's gone, and his salary probably dictated quite a bit of that thinking. He had to be the guy that was going to get the big goal, was going to be the leading scorer, was going to run the power play, and now he's on a team where he's just another superstar.
A broken stick being removed from the Winnipeg crease behind Daniel Berthiaume. And the Winnipeg Jets will have their first power play opportunity of the game. They successfully killed off an Edmonton power play. I know you were surprised, Harry, in looking at the stats about the similarities between the two teams in penalty killing and power play.
They're almost identical. They both have 8 goals in the power play, and they both have allowed 5 against. Winnipeg's power play and the lack of production has been a real mystery to me all year. They can put 5 excellent players out there, and how they're sitting at 18th and 19th is beyond me.
Neufeld at the line, tried to bang it into the corner, but it was offside.
The power play, so much of it is confidence. When you think you're going to score on every power play, you do score on a lot of them. When you wonder if you're going to score on the power plays, your percentage usually reflects that. A little bit of doubt. And it's a team doubt. The coach feels it, the players feel it, the fans know it, and we keep reminding you of it up here.
1:47 remaining in the penalty to Kent Nielsen. Marois drives it into the corner. Thomas Dean picking it up off the board. Dean is checked there by Craig Muni. The puck is loose. It comes to the point. Arlau was unable to keep it in, and the Jets have to retreat to the neutral zone to try and regroup. 8:40 remaining in this opening period. 1-0 Winnipeg in front on a goal at 1:20 by Laurie Boschman. Marois with a long shot deflected by Thomas Dean. Pure got a piece of it. Boschman back to the line to Marois. He tees it up, lets the shot go. Pure way out of his net to make the save. I think Glenn Fader will like that side from Grant Pure, that he really came out, as he has been known to do in the past, and challenge the shooter.
Well, the resident experts in Edmonton will tell you that he hasn't been doing that. And usually he's the best. You see how far out of the net he is? He's going to get that puck before the guy trying to tip it in can get a stick on it. There's a nice tippable shot, and you can see that Pure isn't taking any chances. And Edmonton's defensemen are not known for their aggressive play in front of the Edmonton goal. And Edmonton goalies, although often they don't get a lot of shots against them, probably have to stop more quality chances than any other pair of goaltenders in the National League on a normal night.
Randy Gregg dumps it down the ice. Messier is racing after it, but Berthiaume got there to play it along the boards for Olofsson. Olofsson gets it ahead to Howardchuk. Howardchuk in across the line, tried to leave it there, and Gretzky intercepted, couldn't clear. Allen gets it over to Snail, or to Muffin, I should say, in the corner, and it's picked up there by McLean. Back to the point. Olofsson with a shot, just goes wide. Back to the line. Allen with a shot. Into the corner to Olofsson now. His shot is blocked by Messier, picked up by McLean. McLean back to Olofsson. Over to Allen, a shot right on the save by Grant Pure. Olofsson over to Allen. Allen to Howardchuk. Howardchuk took a shot, it went off. Charlie Huddy was up into the crowd.
Well, one thing I like about the Winnipeg point men, and they've always been known for this, is they don't try necessarily to score from the point, on the power play especially. They try and get it on the net, down low, where the goaltender may not see it, it may be tipped, or he may give a rebound. Watch what happens to Pure here. And I know the referee thought that that was an accident. I'm not so sure it was. Dave Ellett got the puck at the point and didn't know Pure wasn't in the goal.
Paul McLean, who is known to take up a position in front of the opposition goaltender, running into Grant Pure, and the Oilers were protesting that he was interfered with. 22 seconds remaining in the penalty to Kent Nielsen. 7:37 in the period. 1-0, the Jets lead the Oilers. From the face-off, Craig Muni playing it around on the boards. McTavish trying to get it out. It's kept in by the Jets. And then as they tried to play it back to the point, it came out into the neutral zone. Chance for one more rush for Winnipeg before the penalty expires. Pass intercepted by Muni. He falls. McLean has it in the corner. McLean for Howardchuk in front. And there was nobody in position. Mullins plays it back to the net for Howardchuk. He couldn't control it along the boards, and the Oilers bring it out. They're back at full strength. A long rink-wide pass intended for Nielsen, knocked down and fired deep into the Edmonton zone. An icing call against Winnipeg. Goaltenders have been tested 6 times. Huddy back on the point, playing with Paul Coffey. This was a dynamite combination for the Edmonton Oilers over the past few years.
Boy, when they used to always play with Gretzky like they are now, Coffey, as the 4th man in the rush, used to terrify him.
Coffey pinching in, keeps that puck in the Winnipeg zone. Jets trying to get it out and finally succeed in doing so. Coffey to the attack. He flicks it high into the Winnipeg zone. Takes a strange bounce over to the corner. Hamel bumps there with Gretzky. Leaves the puck for Jim Kite. And the Jets get it out into the center ice area. Coffey is there to pick it up and fire it right back in.
Well, it looks to me like Maloney has decided that he wants Wilson's line against Gretzky.
Here's Wilson going to the attack. Backhand shot to save by Grant Fuhr. He had Hamel breaking in with him. Now Wilson tied up back to the net by Huddy. Almost intercepted by Hamel, but now Jari Kurri has it. He dumps it out into the center ice area, broken up there by Carlisle and fired back in with 6 minutes remaining in the period. Esa Tikkanen, who had a big series against Los Angeles with 6 goals, shoots it in. Picked up off the end boards by Tim Waters. And Waters comes in across the line. Rink-wide pass for Steve Rooney. Rooney looking in front of the net. McBain was tied up. Boschman has it along the boards for Rooney. To McBain. McBain tried to get it out to Boschman. It's intercepted by Ruotsalainen, and he brings it out. 5:29 left in the period. He can fly. He lets the shot go. It's gloved and held by Daniel Bertillon. Hockey Night in Canada, a Canadian tradition. 5:23 remaining in the opening period. Anderson had started out for the Oilers, then headed back to the bench, and that's the delay, and now he is moving into position with Messier in that face-off circle against Laurie Boschman.
Anderson didn't like the stick, and he went back and tried one and tried another. I don't even think he liked the one he's got now, to tell you the truth, the way he was looking at it.
Brad Berry brings it out, loses it there to Kent Nielsen, drops it off for Messier over to Anderson. Shot, not saved by Bertillon.
See, Anderson's going to change his stick. He doesn't like that one. I thought it was a pretty good shot, perhaps from up here, but Anderson's going back to the Edmonton bench. So I guess I'm going to try that other one.
Well, before each game, the players have about half a dozen sticks that they work on and prepare, shape, and cut down, and it appears as though Anderson has finally found one that suits him.
Well, a lot of them are part-time carpenters, there's no question about that. They are very fussy about their sticks. That's one thing I learned early in my coaching career. Never talk to a player and criticize him, his stick, or his wife. Any one of the three got you in deep trouble.
At the line, Laurie Boschman has it. Ahead for Hamel. Whistle on the play, a 2-line pass.
Well, Winnipeg's got the kind of game that I think they have the best chance of being successful at. It's not a rip, tearing up and down, lots of chances at both ends. It's a fairly slow game for both these teams, and there's a lot of line changes, and I think Maloney's trying to keep the tempo out of the game, which is a pretty good move, because you know what Edmonton can do? They're one of the few teams in hockey who think can score 2 goals in 1 run.
One thing Maloney, I think, was concerned about was getting into any run-and-gun style of play with the Oilers.
Oh, you can't possibly do it. And now Messier's complaining to Kerry Fraser that he's allowing Winnipeg too many late changes. The rule is that the unwritten rule is that the team has 8 seconds to make a change, and then Fraser puts his hand up, and then only the home team can change. But he's been pretty liberal with them, and I think Maloney's taking advantage of it. And Dan Maloney, I watched it happen in Toronto, and of course he's matured a lot as a coach again this year. He used to be not a very good coach against the matchup or trying to get it, but he's excellent now.
Dumped in by the Oilers. Going back after it is Mario Marois. Marois dodges Jari Kurri, gets it out into the center ice area. Howardchuk flips it in. Randy Gregg chased back into his own zone by McLean. Loose along the board, center! Paul McLean trying to jam it as Howardchuk dug it out in the corner, flipped it in front of the net, and then Randy Gregg takes Paul McLean right into the goal as McLean was in front of that net trying to jam it past Grant Pure. 4:33.
Around too long in front. He'll put it in the net. Both coaches now using specialists at center. Boschman came out for Winnipeg, although he got thrown out of the circle, and Sather put Messier out.
Hamel won the draw, got it back to the line. It goes loose now, picked up by Neufeld. His shot goes off a leg. Boschman has it in the corner. Trying to find Hamel. Gets it back again. Behind the net for Hamel. Hamel out front for Neufeld. Saved by Grant Pure. Oh, in the last few seconds, the Jets have had two big scoring opportunities. First McLean and then Neufeld.
And they both came on defensive zone coverage breakdowns by the Oilers. And the Oilers, as a team, are not great in their own zone in the defensive coverage. Now you can see Fraser. Well, here's another look at it. And this is a pretty close play. Curry may have tied Neufeld up just enough, but Neufeld got some wood on it, and he hit Fuhr with it.
4:14 is the time remaining in this opening period. And Fraser now skating over to that Winnipeg bench.
And Maloney's saying, it's 8 seconds, Gary. You told us before the game you got 8 seconds to make a change. Just because you had an interview with Messier, you don't cut it down to 4.
You're sure that's what he was saying?
Well, something like that.
The face-off to the left of Grant Pure. Into the corner. Lowe pokes it around the boards for Muni. To McClellan. The Jets forechecking with three players. Here's a lead pass for Messier. Had trouble controlling it, or he was in clear. For McTavish. McTavish couldn't deflect it. It goes to the corner. McTavish and Marois battle there. McClellan is in there. So is Boschman. And finally, Marois comes up with it. Plays it off the glass, but not out. McTavish tees it up, takes the shot that goes off the leg, and Marois comes back for Winnipeg. 3-on-2. Rooney in across the line. Shot, that goes wide. And the Edmonton net is knocked off its moorings with a face-off coming up in the Edmonton zone.
As little as I've seen him play a first period this entire year because of the line matching or trying to avoid line matching that's going on between the two coaches.
Craig Muni brings it out, and he drives it deep into the Winnipeg zone. Dave Ellett touches it for an icing call against the Oilers. Ellett had a bit of a frustrating season last year, but he has had a big year for Winnipeg this season.
Well, John Ferguson was telling me this morning that he really played all of last year with a pretty bad ankle that never did get better. Because his rookie year, boy, he looked like money in the bank. And Scotty Bowman was raving about this young man when I talked to him on the weekend before coming out here. His dad was a pretty good hockey player, too, you know, back in my time.
Well,
that was a long time ago.
That was a while ago. I think Scotty Bowman, who worked the Calgary-Winnipeg series, coached with Bob Ellett at one time, or played with him, and is certainly familiar with the Ellett family. Krushelnyski out there along with Messier and Anderson. Krushelnyski brings it out for Anderson. Anderson left it there for Craig Muni. Over to Messier. Messier shoots it in. And back to the Winnipeg goal. It's picked up by Dave Ellett. Plays it around on the boards. The Jets' Howardchuk gets it out into the center ice area. 3 minutes remaining in this opening period. 1-0. The Winnipeg Jets lead the Edmonton Oilers. Game 1 of this Smythe Division Final. Game 2 will go here on Thursday night, and we'll have it for you on Hockey Night in Canada. Second shot for score! Messier looking for Anderson. I don't know whether he got it or whether it went off the leg.
I think Anderson tipped him. What a play Ken Nielsen made by not touching the puck on the shoot-in. Now watch this. Ken Nielsen, 15, goes to the puck. He skates right over it. And that allowed Messier to get it and throw it across to Anderson. And you see the defenseman anticipated Nielsen was going to get the puck, so he went to the corner. Ellett went to the corner with him, giving Messier time to find Anderson and giving Anderson time to get there because he started 35 feet away.
Well, I don't think there's anybody in the entire league who drives to the net better than Glenn Anderson. Messier and Nielsen get the assists. It's tied at 1. McSorley Working in the corner. Moves it along the boards for Krushelnyski. He took a shot wide of the goal. Paul Coffey pinching in from the point for Mo LeMay. LeMay, out front. A shot right on, but Gill makes the save and then covers up. There's some pushing going on at the side of the Winnipeg net involving LeMay and Boschman. Messier and Nielsen drawing assists on Anderson's 5th goal of the playoffs at 17-13.
Well, I don't want to take any assists away from anybody, but Nielsen made a great play, but didn't touch the puck, and I don't know whether that means you should get an assist or not. In my opinion, he caused the chance, but he didn't touch the puck.
Kevin Lowe, who fired it in,
right.
should get the assist, and there will probably be a change.
Well, one thing for sure is you don't see much of in the playoffs is who cares who gets the points. In the league play, they're half the time they're over at the timer's bench at the end of the period lobbying for a point.
Well,
and in some rinks, they give them away.
The face-off to the left of Daniel Bertillon. 2:22 remaining in the period. The score tied at 1. Boschman and Anderson, the marksman. Krushelnyski in the circle now against Boschman. Boschman gets the draw. Carlisle has it at the side of the Winnipeg net. Carlisle being harassed as he tries to move out, finally dumps it up along the boards, and McSorley picks it up in his own zone. McSorley for Krushelnyski, too far. Carlisle is knocked flying by Krushelnyski. The puck goes into the corner. Krushelnyski trying to move out. McSorley comes in to help out. Carlisle takes him out of the play, and Doug Smale brings it back for Winnipeg with 1:53 left in the period. Smale in across the line, but the Winnipeg player Tim Waters was offside.
Well, Smale was taking the overland route to get over the blue line, and some of his teammates were stretching their groins to try and stay onside, and one of them couldn't. You have to like this guy's speed, though. He's a real threat to shoot the puck. For a little guy, pretty durable.
He had 2 games in the series clinching game against the Calgary Flames. That 6-1, 2 goals in that 6-1 triumph.
Well, I liked him when I saw him play at North Dakota, but I doubted whether he could play that feisty style and get away with it as a 170-pounder or thereabouts in the National League. But obviously, he's been able to cope with the bigger guys.
Ruotsalainen behind his own net. Jets again with that aggressive forechecking. Ruotsalainen gets it ahead to Glenn Anderson. McLean forces him back. McLean trying to steal it away from him, almost did. Anderson has to try and come out the other side now. Gets it to Messier. Messier into the neutral zone to Ruotsalainen. He knocked it in, and it's picked up there by Jim Kite. And it's the Oilers now who are forechecking in that Winnipeg zone. Both teams appear in tandem, forechecking the other inside their own line. Dumped out by Dale Hawerchuk. 1:06 the time left in the period. The score tied at 1. Here's the loose puck. Picked up by Hawerchuk. Here's McLean going for the net. McLean couldn't control it. Then across by Hawerchuk, and it bounced off McLean's stick. The battle continues in the corner as we move into the final minute. 45 seconds remaining in the period. Gil Hamel got it out front. Nobody there. And the Oilers go to the attack. Ruotsalainen moving out. He has Gretzky. Trailing the play with Kent Nielsen. Ruotsalainen back to Nielsen. It just went past the post. It went off his skate and just missed the open corner. And the penalty is upcoming against the Winnipeg Jets with 26 seconds left in the period.
Well, there was a vintage Edmonton rush. About 8 passes, and finally someone nearly had the whole net to put it in. Ruotsalainen, who's really a dangerous player, throws it to another dangerous player, who's going to get it back to another dangerous player. And I don't know whether that goal would have counted, because Kent Nielsen kicked it, trying to kick it up to his stick, but never got his stick back on it. But we won't have to worry about that controversy. And here's John D'Amico talking to Dan Maloney. And Dan's complaining about something. It must be an offside because he's not directing his attention to Kerry Fraser, who called the penalty.
Gil Hamel draws a holding call at 19:34. John D'Amico was involved in that marathon with you in Washington on Saturday night.
Well, John had a tougher job than I did. Those poor guys had to skate for more than 6 periods. At least between periods, I could run to the washroom or get a Coke. And I had to do both.
We won't go into any details.
Well, John's 51 years old, too, you know. And Finn, the other lineman, was 49. And they did a wonderful job, I thought, the officials that game. And I talked to D'Amico coming out in the plane, and he's talking about retiring. I said, why did you retire, John? You're one of the most respected linesmen in the league. Make him rip the skates off. We don't have enough like you.
Maybe it was the shot in the head he took in that game involving Toronto and St. Louis that had him thinking retirement.
He didn't like it when his cohort started calling him Zipperhead after that.
Tikkanen keeps it in. 6 seconds remaining in the period. They tried to get it back to the line for one last shot, but it is intercepted by Ron Wilson. He lets the long shot go at the siren. So the score at the end of the first period is Edmonton 1 and Winnipeg. Period 2 underway, and as Harry Neal pointed out, he didn't think that Kent Nielsen deserved an assist in that goal by Glenn Anderson, and in fact it has been taken away from him and credited to Kevin Lowe, the man who fired it in. Rutsalainen keeps it in at the line. Jim Kite gets control. He tried to clear it in. Hit the referee, Terry Fraser. And Fraser took that one on the arm as the Jets now start out, led by Doug Smale. Looking against Greg Smale. A backhand shot. The save is made by Grant Fuhr. Gretzky leading the attack for Edmonton. He gains the blue line. Spots on to the post away from Messier. Kept in at the point by Gregg. It goes into the corner, picked up there by Marois. Marois can't get out against Rutsalainen, gets another opportunity to bring it out, and dumps it down into the Edmonton zone.
Gretzky made a great pass, kind only he can make. You know, Winnipeg was a little fortunate. The puck seemed to roll when it got to Messier.
It's amazing how he threads it through.
You can see through his ears, Don. I've said it for years.
Fired in by the Oilers. Randy Carlyle races in after it. Plays it around in the boards, but kept in by Huddy. He goes across ice to Tikkanen. Makes the shot to Coffey. Coffey tees it up. A shot right on. Berthiaume makes the save. 5 seconds remaining in the penalty to Hamel. Gretzky at the line. Dumps it in to Tikkanen. Out front. Nobody in position. Here's a breakaway for Gilles. Hamel coming out of the penalty box. Hamel going in. Saved by Grant Fuhr.
Well, Hamel shot it right at Fuhr, but Fuhr didn't move first, and that's probably why he did.
Gretzky hit the goal post as he let a shot go. Now it's Tikkanen, and the pace is picked up in this second period, at least in the opening 2 minutes. Both clubs with great scoring opportunities as Marois brings it out. Marois is upset at the line, managed to get it ahead to Boschman. Boschman lost control of it, and the Oilers go to the attack. 17:48 remaining in the period. Kevin Lowe trying to go to the backhand, tied up by Jim Kite. The puck goes loose in the corner. Yari Curry back of the net for Gretzky. He's bodied and tied up by Jim Kite as Paul McLean plays it ahead to Howardchuk. Howardchuk, long shot just wide of the net. The rebound, Mullen with a shot. Goal!
Well, Dale Howardchuk, I think, got a stick on that and deflected it up over Fuhr on what looked like a harmless shot after Howardchuk nearly beat Fuhr from about 50 feet out. Now here's the shot that nearly goes in, and you can see that had him beaten. Now Mullen comes and did a turnaround slap shot, and sure enough, or was it Muni that deflected it in? Let's have another look at it here. This is why we have replays.
A little inconclusive on that one as Howardchuk was battling with Muni in front of the net. But Howardchuk may have got a stick on it, but it was his big shot coming off the end glass that Mullen was able to spin around and fire on, and Howardchuk gets the goal. Mullen and McLean drawing the assist. So the Jets lead by 1 again, 2:32 into period 2.
Well, you could guess that Howardchuk tipped it by how high he jumped. He wouldn't jump that high if that had been Mullen's goal.
That's the telltale sign.
That's one of them.
The Oilers bring it out into the neutral zone. Glenn Anderson, who has their goal, flips a backhand shot that Berthiaume steers to the corner. Picked up by Tim Waters now, being chased by Kent Nielsen. Up on the boards and back out to center ice. Pass intercepted by Howardchuk, coming in across the line. Howardchuk takes the shot, went off a leg. Mullen is bodied in the corner. The puck goes loose, and Craig Muni picks it up for Edmonton. He dumps it out into the center ice area. Kent Nielsen gets it ahead to Messier. Messier to Nielsen. And he couldn't get a good shot away as he was tied up by Neufeld.
Neufeld fought back. Take the 2-on-1 away.
Allen's shot whistled down at the line on the offside. From Northlands Coliseum in Edmonton, the Stanley Cup playoffs on CBC. The Edmonton line. Krushelnyski gets the draw back into his own zone. Ruotsalainen brings it out. A long shot off the glass. Krushelnyski picking it up. Couldn't get a shot. Ruotsalainen with a shot. The puck lying in the crease, and it's picked up by Neufeld. There's going to be a penalty, a holding call against the Winnipeg Jets. But that may have saved a goal. Live on CBC, Hockey Night in Canada.
And had he not held Krushelnyski's stick 26, see it right here? It was a goal. That was a good penalty.
Ruotsalainen over to the other point to Gregg as they move it around to Tikkanen. Gretzky out front. It bounces high and is back into the corner. Kicked out of the air by Marois. And the Jets' Jim Kite dumps it down the ice.
Well, you can see Edmonton. They like to throw it around the outside, but you rarely see a white shirt in front of the Winnipeg net, and I think that's a mistake. You have to have somebody to take the goaltender's attention away, or you're never going to beat him from the blue line, or very rarely.
Back at the point, Ruotsalainen to Gretzky. He lost it, and Kite dumps it the length of the ice with 1:20 remaining in the penalty to Laurie Boschman. Jari Kurri, checked by Andrew McBain. Gil Hamel overskated as he attempted to break in. Gretzky gets it back to Ruotsalainen. He's checked in the neutral zone. And the Jets' Dave Ellett shoots it back into Edmonton territory.
Well, Edmonton's having trouble even getting it over the red line, let alone into the Winnipeg zone. And Winnipeg's got those quick forwards that we talked about, and they're quick in the penalty killing situation as well.
47 seconds remaining in the penalty. Messier for Gretzky. Here's a man who can get things going to Paul Coffey going for the net. Oh, it went off the post. He put a move on Daniel Berthiaume and then lost control of the puck, but it still trickled off his stick and hit the post.
Well, Berthiaume was very fortunate there because Coffey had him beaten. The old goalpost came into the play, and all goalies will tell you that's their best friend.
Here's Coffey again, throwing it out front. Ron Wilson intercepts and he flips it the length of the ice. 13 seconds left in the penalty to Laurie Boschman.
And Winnipeg looks like they're going to get away with another splendid penalty-killing job. And what a difference it makes to your hockey team if you can play this part of the game as well as Winnipeg had it. If their power play was equally effective, look out.
Now with the Hockey Night in Canada update, here's Chris Cuthbert.
Gentlemen, it's over in Detroit. The Leafs are about to celebrate their third consecutive playoff win, this one at the expense of Harry Neal's former team. The Leafs wrest home ice from the Red Wings.
And Harry Neal, what are your thoughts about the performance of your former team against the Maple Leafs?
Well, the Maple Leafs played very well against St. Louis the last 3 games. And Detroit had a 9-day layoff, and I think that combination cost Detroit home ice advantage.
In the center ice area, Kevin Lowe shoots it in. Picked up off the boards by Barry. He tried to play it out. It went over the glass and out of play with 13:56 remaining in the second period.
And now Craig Muni plays Howardchuk much too soft here. He just stands by him instead of blocking him from going to the net, and it cost Edmonton a goal as Howardchuk redirected it over Fuhr.
Face-off outside the Winnipeg line, 13:56 left in the second. 2-1, the Jets lead it. Dave Hunter back to the net for McClellan. Comes all the way around to the point for Craig Muni. He's having trouble there trying to keep it in. McTavish comes in to help out, but they can't move it. Now the Jets start back. Boschman in across the line. Long shot. This is the far corner. But Fuhr had come down to challenge.
Well, I don't think Boschman could see a lot of the net as Fuhr was 12 feet out of the goal and had that angle.
That centering pass bounced off a stick right in front of the Winnipeg net. Rooney drops it for Dave Allen. Allen goes wink wide. He was looking for Boschman. It bounced away from him. And then Boschman was tied up by Kevin Lowe as McTavish brings it back. He loses it. Bosman looking for Paul McLean. McLean can't do anything with it, but it's loose along the board, and McTavish dumps it the length of the ice. This will be an icing call against the Edmonton Oilers with 12:54 remaining in the second period.
Well, Edmonton look a little sluggish to me. They don't look as on top of their game as Winnipeg seems to. And, you know, I don't think there's much to choose between the speed of either one of these teams. But Edmonton hasn't been going at the clip that they can. And 7 days off can play havoc with your game shape, which is vital if you're going to feel the way you want to feel and play the way you want to play.
Well, Winnipeg has never won a postseason game in the National Hockey League against Edmonton. They've lost all 10 previous meetings. Back at the side of the Edmonton goal. The Oilers against that forechecking of Winnipeg, having some problems breaking out of their own zone. Banged off the boards, and Randy Carlyle gathers it in for Winnipeg. Over to Tim Waters. He drives it right back into Edmonton territory. Howardchuk in the corner, lost it there to Ruotsalainen. He feeds it ahead to Mo LeMay. Dropping it off for Krushelnyski. Krushelnyski centering it. It goes wide to the corner, and the Jets come back. Paul McLean coming to the line, dodges a check for Howardchuk. It's offside.
And the Edmonton defense stood up very nicely on McLean there and caused that offside. And I know the coaches will tell you that an offside cause is as good as a body check as far as the defense is concerned. And that time, and Edmonton's defense is not known for standing up. They kind of back in a little too much. They were right on the ball there and caused this fellow to zig instead of zag, and offside when it's been.
Pretty good trade John Ferguson made to acquire Paul McLean from St. Louis.
I guess so. There's not one of the other four even playing. And if you're watching out there, you were part of a good Winnipeg trade.
12:09 remaining in this second period. Hamel with Wilson and Smale for the Jets. Winnipeg shoots it in. Ruotsalainen picks it up behind his own net, leaves it there for Randy Gray. For McSorley. McSorley having problems getting out. Hamel has it. Hamel back of the net, trying to slide it out front. Wilson took a swipe at it. It was steered back to the line and out by Fuhr. Fired in by Kite, and then it bounces back out into the center ice area. The Jets go to the attack again. Doug Smale with that great speed, going to his backhand. His shot blocked by Gregg. It goes in behind the net, and Krushelnyski has it for the Edmonton Oilers. For McSorley. McSorley shoots it into Winnipeg territory, racing back after it is Marois. He bangs it along the boards, but not out. McSorley keeps it in. Krushelnyski trying to move with it. There's a whistle on the play. They rule that it did come out, and it was offside with 11:21 left in the second. The Winnipeg Jets, I think, are following their game plan to perfection so far.
Without question. This game is not wide open. There's very little great offensive play by either team for that matter, and most of the chances come off mistakes. And that's the way to beat Edmonton.
Gretzky with a shot right on, steered to the corner. Tikkanen tried to center it. It's picked off by Dave Ellis. Ellis, rink wide for Andrew McBain, too far, and Charlie Huddy chases it into his own zone. Bumped in the corner, picked up by Boschman. Boschman looked out front, but McBain couldn't get to it. It comes to the line and out with Curry leading the attack. Gretzky trailing over to Gretzky. Gretzky trying to get it across to Paul Coffey, coming in late, but he was tied up and the pass didn't get through. Here's Tikkanen stealing it. Tikkanen has it in the corner. Circling back to the line, takes a shot, knocked down in front, and Ray Mufeld leads a 3-on-2 for Winnipeg. Tikkanen and Curry did a good job of getting back into the play, particularly Curry. Now in the center ice area, Curry trying to get it across, broken up by Carlyle, and it's dumped back into the Edmonton zone. Mark Messier leaves it there, picked up by Howardchuk. Howardchuk looking back to the line. It bounced off the boards and it's picked up by Curry. For Tikkanen. The Oiler attack just a little disorganized at times.
Well, Winnipeg's forechecking them very well.
Here's Messier coming in, and he has it knocked away from him as Winnipeg defenseman Tim Waters recovered nicely.
Edmonton looks to me to be trying to make the perfect play coming out of their own zone, and that extra second to find it is causing them to give the puck up very often.
Anderson drops it at the line. Nielsen, rink wide pass. Shot saved. The rebound in front. Another shot by Newton. Put it off the post as it came back to the line. The Jets now bring it out. Mullen, rink wide pass intercepted by Glenn Anderson. Pretty passing by the Oilers. And they almost came up with that tying goal. Wilderson bumped by Kite. Messier has it in the corner up front. And Anderson couldn't get a good shot away. And Bergeron covers up and then slides it to the corner. Howardchuk bangs it off the boards and out.
You have to have good goaltending and a little luck to beat Edmonton when they're rolling. And we saw both on that last little.
Kite plays it up along the boards, and now Dale Howardchuk goes rink wide to Doug Smale, working against Ruotsalainen, trying to go around him, and the Edmonton defenseman knocks him off the puck and plays it up along the boards for Dave Hunter. Hunter shoots it in, McClellan racing in. Centers the shot! Dave Hunter brings it in, the centering pass by McClellan.
Well, that was a good shoot-in by Hunter to start with. Edmund got to the puck first, caused the turnover, and put it in the net. Now, the shoot-in sits right here, and you can see that the two players swiped at the puck at the same time, and Hunter, the fellow that shot it in, was allowed to go to the net unmolested. And you and I could have scored that one from there.
Well, maybe you could have. I'm not so sure I could have.
Well, Hunter hasn't scored very often, but he made the shoot-in and scored the goal, and it was a good diagonal shoot-in that came off the net, off the end of the rink, and the Edmonton player just beat the Winnipeg defenseman to the puck.
McClellan and McTavish drawing assists on Hunter's first goal of the playoffs at 11:27. It's tied at 2. Ruotsalainen gets the draw. Rink wide pass to Hunter. He shoots it in. Going back after it is Dave Ellett. Plays it around on the boards. Hunter manages to keep it in. Ellett having problems getting out. Finally, it's knocked out to the neutral zone. Puck deflected high up into the crowd and out of play. Tonight's game is coming to you from the Coliseum in Edmonton. Corey Boschman putting them in front early in the first period. And then it was tied up by Glenn Anderson. Dale Howardchuk put them ahead early in the second. It's tied up by Dave Hunter. Into the center ice area. Hunter fighting along the boards, and they succeed. He and Smale and tying it up for a face-off.
Well, the game's heating up a little bit, and some of the players are getting upset with each other, and I think that's a good thing to improve the quality of the game. And this guy, Bergeron, looks a little awkward to me tonight. Now, I haven't seen enough of him to know what he really looks like on a regular basis, but this pass across comes right through the crease, and if he'd have stopped it, there'd have been no goal, and it went about 4 inches from his goal stick.
I think he probably realized that had he played that puck and stopped it or even deflected it.
He may have been worrying about a chip shot that could come out of the fact that the two sticks came together and the Edmonton stick must have touched the puck first, but if he had it to do over again, you're right, he would have deflected the puck as it went across right in front of him.
Jim Kite chased behind his own net, trying to contend there with the speed of Nielsen and Anderson. Nielsen got to it, centered it, dumped out by the Jets. Huddy forced into his own zone, playing it behind the net, being bothered there by Howardchuk, gets away from him for Anderson to Messier. Coming out with Paul Coffey and Nielsen. 3-on-3 and across the line. Nielsen to Messier. Messier going for the net. Bump there, tried to get it out front. It comes to the line for Coffey. Over to Huddy, lets the shot go wide. At the side of the net, Anderson is bumped. Messier comes in to pick it up. He tried to get it back to the line, and Mullen deflected it down the ice.
Well, that line gave us a little taste of how Edmonton can move and how they can move the puck.
Carlisle chased by Curry. Curry gets to it. Plays it for Gretzky out front for Muni. Couldn't get a good shot away as he was tied up by Merwa. The puck loose. in the Winnipeg zone, kept in by the Oilers. Boschman still all over Gretzky, and that's the reason for the fan reaction. Now the Jets start back. Andrew McBain with a long shot, just wide. The big rebound comes back to McBain. He tried to move in, and it was knocked away by Craig Muni and dumped out to the neutral zone.
You have to wonder whether the scouting report that both coaches got from their scouts was to take some long shots on these goalies, because we've seen a lot of them that looked like they had the goalie beaten but were just wide.
Kevin Lowe trying to get out of his own zone with 6:12 left in the period. It comes loose to Curry. Curry in across the line with Tikkanen. Tikkanen flipped it to an open wing, and it's picked off by Neufeld. Neufeld dumps it in for the Jets. Going back after it is Ruotsalainen. The Jets making a complete change. Long lead pass for Kevin Lowe. He shoots it in. It's knocked down by the Jets and fired down the ice. Kevin Lowe back into his own zone, being watched by Ron Wilson. Up along the boards for Mo LeMay, for Marty McSorley. He dumps it into the corner, races in after it, but Dave Ellett gets there first, unable to clear it. Brad Berry will now try and get it out. The Oilers defenseman doing a good job pitching in from the point, keeping that puck in the Winnipeg zone, but now it's brought out by Hamel with 5:17 left in the period. He tried to lead Wilson. It was too far, and it's dumped back out to center ice. Mushelnitsky to McSorley. Great wide pass, and it's skipped away from Mo LeMay. Back comes Gilles Hamel. Hamel into the center ice area, stopped by Ruotsalainen. He dumps it in, and then takes a hit from Brad Berry. Loose puck in the Winnipeg zone. Mushelnitsky gets it to Gregg. Gregg tried to go across ice. It's intercepted by Smale and cleared. In the neutral zone, Mushelnitsky did a good job down on the ice to control that puck. It's dumped in. Dave Ellett, or Tim Waters, I should say, overskated it, then takes a hit. It comes up along the boards. Now it's Kevin McClellan trying to play it out. Picked off by Gilles Hamel, and he dumps it in as the Jets make another change with 4:22 left in the period. The score tied at 2. Andrew McBain steals it in across the line with Hawerchuk. McBain with a shot high over the glass and out of play. This is the Stanley Cup playoffs on CBC. That appeared to be the result of a first period collision. He didn't see much action in the last 5 minutes of that first period. A long shot by Nielsen is gloved and held by Berthiaume with 4:03 remaining in the period. Coliseum. Shot right on. Loose puck at the side of the net, and it's cleared by Mario Marois. Titus taken into the corner. Dug out by Anderson out front. And it bounced away from Messier. And Ray Neufeld for Winnipeg shoots it in. 3:45 remaining in the period. Steve Rooney races in, manages to keep it in, but is decked by Huddy in the process. Now the Oilers' Kent Nielsen breaks out with Paul Coffey. Coffey the line, and the Winnipeg Jets' Tim Waters dumps it down the ice. Going back after it is Charlie Huddy. A whistle on the play, and there's a penalty coming up.
I think you'll see a double penalty. Rooney and Coffey, who were swatting each other as they were returning to the Edmonton zone. At least Coffey was returning to the zone. And you recall Coffey had made the rush, and Rooney got in front of him as he tried to get back to his defense position, and that's where all this trouble began.
The score tied at 2 with 3:23 left in period 2, which is 1-1 after 20 minutes. The Oilers with a 17-12 edge in shots on goal.
Well, Edmonton has looked a little more dangerous in the last 6 or 7 minutes because the tempo of the game has picked up, and we see those end-to-end rushes, and I think that favors the Edmonton team. They do it a little better than most teams in the league.
Coffey and Rooney each getting 2 minutes for roughing at 16:37. Hawerchuk gets the draw to Carlisle. Through traffic, his shot knocked down by McTavish. McTavish breaks out. McTavish coming in against Waters. A shot and a save as Berthiaume kicks it to the corner. And there's going to be a penalty here against the Winnipeg Jets.
Well, I think you're going to see Carlisle go to the box. His shot was blocked, and as he tried to hustle back, knowing he was caught, He tripped the Edmonton player who was trying to get up on the rush. It was well behind the play, but Kerry Fraser, who was well behind the play, saw it. They called it hooking instead of tripping, but the guy went down, and here it is. You see him in the middle of the screen right there. And Berthiaume had to make a bit of a save on McTavish, who got not a breakaway, but a half a breakaway anyway, and he couldn't make it, so he had to cut inside the Winnipeg defenseman, and as he did, he shot it.
So the Oilers get another power play opportunity, but so far, with Randy Carlyle looking on from the penalty box, the Jets have done an excellent job in shutting down that Edmonton power play. They are missing one of their premier penalty killers with Thomas Steen in the dressing room. He and Andrew McBain work as one unit, Ron Wilson and Doug Smale as the other. Boschman will be out there to take all the face-offs, though. He goes to the bench now, and Smale comes out with Wilson. Mario Marois unable to get it out. Randy Gregg in deep. Plays it around the boards. Ruotsalainen for Nielsen, back to the net for Anderson. Anderson tied up by Marois, manages to get it loose, back to the line. Ruotsalainen to Kent Nielsen. Kent Nielsen drops it back. Ruotsalainen, a shot saved by Berthiaume. He's down. The puck jumped ahead and banged off the boards for Ron Wilson. Ron Wilson coming in, takes the shot. So saved by Grant Fuhr, who came out to challenge. In the center ice area, Tim Waters gets the puck and fires it in deep with 1 minute remaining in the penalty to Randy Carlyle.
Two good stops in the last 30 seconds. Berthiaume on a deflection. And Fuhr on Wilson's long shot, but he had to make a great stop with his left toe or it would have been a shorthanded goal.
McBain failed to clear. Gretzky has it. Gretzky back to the point to Charlie Huddy. Over to Randy Gregg. Gregg looking for Gretzky. Knocked down, but Gretzky gets it back to Huddy. It bounced over his stick and down the ice.
That Edmonton won't shoot. It must drive Sather and Muckler nuts because they've got some guys who can really shoot it, but they keep wanting to pass it and trying to pass it through traffic. Winnipeg's got that quickness, and they cut those alleys off very well.
Fans now beginning to get on the Oilers and their power play just a little here in the second period. Fired in with Jim Kite. Getting it along the boards to Wilson. He clears the zone. Here's a 2-on-1 for Winnipeg. Marois trying to catch up with Smale. Smale took the initial shot. It's blocked. Smale still has it. Leads it back to the net. Gary Curry starts out for the Oilers. And the penalty to Carlyle has expired. Smale steals it. Smale tried to tee it up, but it was partially deflected by Kevin Lowe. We're into the final minute of this second period with the score tied at 2. The Oilers move out of their own zone. Curry for Tikkanen. Back to Curry. He and Gretzky come in across the line. Curry going for the net, and then is checked by Paul McLean. McLean, rink-wide pass for Brian Mullen. In across the line, it's left for Dave Ellett, but apparently it came out just across the line. And it's offside with 36 seconds left in the period.
Well, Sather knows that not only is it vital to win the first game and maintain your home ice advantage, but he realizes that it may break the confidence that Winnipeg has acquired through a very successful playoff with Calgary. And I think he thinks that's as important as maintaining the home ice advantage. Here's a stop Berthiaume makes. Watch the tip in here by Gregg. And Berthiaume stands his ground and makes the stop. And here is the stop that Fuhr makes. Watch how far the net Fuhr is. But he still has to make a nice stop with his left leg. Had he been back further in the net, I don't think he could have got that shot.
Deflected down the ice, Tim Waters plays it off the glass. Picked up by Dale Hawerchuk coming in against Craig Muni. Hawerchuk put on a good move, tried to center it, nobody there. It goes back of the net. Muni moving it up along the boards. With 9 seconds remaining in the period, McTavish in across the line trying to go around Gilles Hamel. Was unsuccessful and the puck is brought out. A breakaway for Winnipeg would have been upcoming, but the siren sounds to end the period. And so the score after 40 minutes is Edmonton 2, Winnipeg 2.
CBC News.
The second period, much like the first, the Jets score first, and then the Oilers come back to tie. It's 2-2 after 2. Well, last night in Quebec, the Nordiques fired the first salvo in the Battle of Quebec. Actually, at the Forum in Montreal, Dick Irvin and Gary Dornhofer standing by with more on the Nordiques' 7-5 win.
Game 1 of the Adams Division Final at the Montreal Forum lived up to a lot of its advanced billing. It was rugged, there was a lot of emotion, but 12 goals against and 7 on the team with the best defensive record in the regular season. That was a surprise.
It's hard to believe, Dick, but in Game 1, that's the worst that I've seen two teams play behind their blue line. There were so many giveaways. You'd think it was just an exhibition game, but the one reason that the Nordiques won, they were able to capitalize more so than the Canadians. And also, let's not forget the fact that Patrick Waugh just had an awful game. He was shaky right from the start and really struggled.
The way that the Nordiques broke a 4-4 tie in the third period kind of told the story about the way the pucks were going into the net. This is the goal that makes it 5-4.
Well, you have to keep an eye on number 32, Dale Hunter. There's two ways of setting up a screen. One is directly in front of the goaltender. The other one is far out and just deflect it.
Now the Canadians run into all kinds of trouble. It's a giveaway time off the stick of Gingras. Ogrodnik, don't give him a chance, no doubt about it, on the breakaway. Gary, I've lived through these two teams and their rivalry, and so much of it is psychological, mainly, I guess, in the media, but is it a little too early in a series like this to start talking along those lines?
Dick, I think both coaches talked about it being a long series, and I believe it will be, too. I mean, it's great to have that home ice advantage, and the Canadians have lost it. I think that'll wake them up. I still think it's got to go 6 or 7 games, and you just plan whatever moves or whatever changes you have to make and get ready for the next game. One thing, both teams have that day off to make other preparations.
It had been 40 days and nights since the Canadians last lost a hockey game. Very briefly, though, you have to give Quebec credit. Forget about the law of averages. They are playing very well.
A lot of confidence. Nobody expected them to win against Hartford. They did that. And you'd be surprised winning a series what that does for you. And they showed it tonight. They can score.
So that's the story. Game 1 of the Adams Division Final goes to the Nordiques.
And 9-day layoffs hurt Montreal and Detroit. Coming up next, we'll have a report on the Red Wings' loss to the Maple Leafs. The Stanley Cup playoffs on CBC continue in a moment.
This year, Winnipeg actually had a better record, 23 wins to the 21 registered by Edmonton. Of course, Edmonton really had a tough time with Calgary.
They sure did, and they're glad they're not playing them tonight. And so is Winnipeg.
Craig Muni on the right side, dumped in by Kent Nielsen, intercepted by the Jets, and Howard Chuck brings it out and across the line with McLean. Howard Chuck and McLean cross, but Craig Muni did a good job in tying up Howard Chuck, and the Oilers come back. Messier having difficulty controlling the puck as it's poked into the corner. Now back at his own goal, Grant Perry for the Jets, ahead to McLean. McLean for Howard Chuck. Howard Chuck puts on the brakes, he takes the puck from Craig Muni. Back comes Anderson, long shot. The save by Daniel Bergeron, and it's played around the boards for Ray Neufeld. He can't get out as Coffey pinches in, and Jim Kite has to chase it into the corner. They talked about a shadow job perhaps on Wayne Gretzky, but it appears that Muni is doing a pretty good job on Howard Chuck.
Well, neither Gretzky or Howard Chuck have been as dominant as they often are. I don't know whether that's the reason. It's obvious, but that's the truth.
Gretzky puts on the brakes, looking for Tikkanen. The pass didn't get through as it was broken up by Steve Rooney. Neufeld has his pass intercepted and knocked back in. The Jets try again. Marois for Rooney. Rooney got away from Gretzky, and Kite flips it into the Edmonton zone.
Well, Winnipeg scored early in the first at 120, early in the second at 2:32. Will they do it again?
Jets playing without center Thomas Steen. An icing call here against the Edmonton Oilers. From Northlands Coliseum in Edmonton, the Stanley Cup playoffs on CBC. Carlisle tees it up, and the shot is deflected to the corner by Fuhr. Centering attempt knocked down by the Oilers. To the attack they go with Messier in the neutral zone. He looks rink wide for McTavish, but it's offside.
John Ferguson was here at the rink early this morning, about 10 o'clock, smoking the ever-present cigar. And he told me that that was his third cigar of the day, and it was only 10:30 in the morning. So he's geared for this game, you know that.
I think during the playoffs, Fergie wakes up with a cigar in his mouth.
Well, he's a competitive guy, and this kind of a series and watching his team do as well as it did against Calgary, you can certainly tell that he wants to play one more round after this one.
Quite a difference between the two teams at the rink today. The Oilers very loose. The Jets appeared to be just a little tense, a little tight. And that was reflected when they arrived for the game as well in the dressing room. Outside the dressing room, the Oilers, including Randy Gregg, joking and kibitzing around, while the Winnipeg Jets were very businesslike.
Absolutely, and that started with the boss, Ferguson, who was here early tonight as well and said that it was a long afternoon between practice in the morning and the game tonight. But John never did come to a game when he coached, managed, or played that he wasn't ready to play.
If Fergie had his way, I think he'd like to see all 7 games in the series played the same day. Neufeld moves it out into the center ice area. The Jets without Thomas Steen. He won't be back this game. He has a shoulder problem. He was hurt in the first period as he has an ice pack on that shoulder. Neufeld, rink-wide pass. It's deflected down the ice. Racing after it, Boschman and Gregg. The Edmonton defenseman gets there, can't clear it out. Allen keeps it in, then he's taken in against the boards by Hunter, and McClellan dumps it down the ice. McTavish racing after it. He's working against Barry. McTavish looking in front, tied up by Barry, and Rooney loses the puck. Here's another chance for the Oilers. A penalty coming up against the Winnipeg Jets. Well, live on CBC, Hockey Night in Canada.
Dynamite by giving these power play chances to Edmonton. Brad Barry played the one-on-one against McTavish very nicely. Then Rooney overskated the puck and forced Boschman to haul McClellan down to save a good chance on goal. And this is the 5th power play for Edmonton. They haven't scored yet. The odds are getting better with every one that they will score.
Yes, it's highly unlikely that you will shut down the Edmonton Oilers power play. Puck in that Edmonton zone and then deflected down the ice. It was hit with a high stick. The reason for the whistle, and the face-off will be back in Winnipeg territory. And this is where they'll miss Laurie Boschman in the penalty box in the face-off circle.
Absolutely. The power play becomes about a third more effective when it starts with the puck every time on the face-off. And nobody does it any better than Laurie Boschman for the Winnipeg Jets. In fact, Boschman is one of the premier face-off centermen in the league, and I used to scream like mad at the referee, said he cheats all the time. By the time the puck hits the ice, he's turned at a 45-degree angle, and he must have learned that from Bobby Clark. And this guy here can take face-offs, too. It's a real art. I mean, what makes a man good on the face-off? It isn't necessarily strength, because you see little guys that are good on it. It isn't necessarily experience, because a kid coming out of junior can do it. And I've never been able to figure out exactly what it is, and it's very hard to become a good centerman on the draw if you weren't when you came into the league.
Back to the line. Nielsen with the shot right on. The rebound comes back to the line for Nielsen. He can wind up and really let it go, and he's back on the point. It comes to him again. He tried to slide it in the corner. It's deflected. Messier along the board. Out to Nielsen. The shot saved by Bergeron. Oh, a quick release by Nielsen and an equally quick reaction by Daniel Bergeron.
And you know the thing that's amazing about that? That was a bullet pass. And watch Kent Nielsen, with the softest hands in North America, takes the pass and gets the shot off at the same time. And you can see that Berthiaume had no chance of getting across the net and set for the shot. And he had to make the save while he was moving. And that was probably as much luck as anything, because goalies can't do that very often. Now here it is again. Watch how hard this pass is. And that was a great play, ending up by the best part of it being Bertheume's save.
1:16 remaining in the penalty to Boschman. Carlisle takes it in the corner, tries to play it high off the glass. It comes to the line, kept in by Coffey. For Gretzky, back to Coffey. Over to Kent Nielsen. Back to Coffey. Coffey takes the shot. It's wide. Nielsen gets it in the corner. Tried to go to Messier. Gets it back. Behind the net for Gretzky. Gretzky looking for Nielsen. Intercepted by McBain. McBain can't get out. At the line, it's Messier. Long shot saved by Daniel Bergeron. He was partially screened by Wayne Gretzky. Now in the corner. Ellis trying to move it along the boards. Coffey keeps it in. Carlisle goes into the corner after. He'll get the opening and dump it down the ice with 30 seconds left in the penalty.
Well, one of the important features of a power play is the ability to retrieve loose pucks. And Edmonton showed you there as they recovered the puck about 3 times after Winnipeg had control of it.
Curry in the corner. Back to the net for Tikkanen. To Curry. To Gretzky. Back to the point for Coffey. To Gretzky. Gretzky shot. That's why he was looking for the far corner. Vasilina to Tikkanen. To Coffey. A shot. Back down in front of the net. Jim Pike banks it off the boards. The Jets are at full strength. Lead pass into the center ice area and headed to Boschman just a little too far. Gretzky comes back, 15:57 remaining in the third. At the line, he's tied up by Carlisle. Vasilina takes the shot. Doesn't get through, broken up by Mullet. Gretzky gets it back to the line to Gregg. Takes the shot. Quite really doesn't get through. Carlisle has it now for Winnipeg in his own zone. For Waters to McLean. Back to Carlisle. On the left side, Howard-Chuck. He shoots it in. McLean trying to pick it up against Frank Sanderson, and it was deflected by Mullet right into Grant Muir's pass. He really wasn't sure where that was, though.
No, he wasn't. He knew he had it, but he didn't know where it was going. And he recovered the puck as it rolled down his arm.
Dumped out as the Oilers make a change. Kevin Lowe shoots it back in, and Randy Carlisle retreats for the Jets. 14 minutes remaining in the third period. Lowe now shooting it in for Edmonton. And that's whistled down. An offside called in the center ice area.
This is a place where people escape tension and anxiety. Except the ones who bring their clubs. Because just standing here is enough to make a little doubt creep into your swing. Which is why you should swing a Spalding club. Every one of our clubs is designed with a feel, a control that means more confidence in your shot. You see, we understand that at a time like this, the true test of a club isn't how it feels in your hands. It's how it feels in your stomach.
We'll be back here at the Northlands Coliseum Thursday night for Game 2 of this semifinal. The Oilers and Jets Thursday on Hockey Night in Canada.
14:01 remaining in the third. 2-2. The Jets and the Oilers. The Oilers have been forced to come from behind twice so far in the hockey game. Brad Berry in his own zone, looking for Neufeld. It bounced away from him all the way down the ice, and Pure comes way out of his net. Stop it back there for his defenseman. Now it's Mulvaney. Shooting it in, McSorley racing in after it. Tries to center it, stopped at the side of the net by Bertuzzi. There's a chance! They scored a no goal! No goal, they ruled that the net had been lifted off the scoring, and that was a good call by Kerry Fraser. He was right there. He made an instant before McSorley let it go, the net came off its moorings.
He made the call right away, and I think when we have a look at the replay here, we're going to see, as you mentioned, that it was the right call, although he's got about 15,000 people here that don't agree with him. Now watch when the net comes off, right there, the net's up, and the puck goes in well after it was dislodged. You can see the mob in the crease, the net is up now as the puck is going in. And you got to wonder whether the Winnipeg player behind the net there didn't pull it off with his hand. But he pulled off a goal-saving play. And not much of a complaint from the Edmonton team, who I think realized this. If it had been closer than that, they'd still be arguing about it.
Prior to the game, you talked about the strength of the Winnipeg Jets at center. Well, with Thomas Steen out, they are hurting at that center ice position. Howard-Chuck and Boschman are getting some double duty. Played around the boards by the Jets as Kevin Lowe goes back into his own zone. Rink wide for Glenn Anderson. Anderson for Nielsen to Messier. Tried to get it back to Nielsen. It was broken up by Mario Marois. He flips it out. Uni fires it back in for the Oilers. It's flipped high over the glass and out of play. The Stanley Cup playoffs return in a moment. Change to Brian Mullen. The second Winnipeg goal in the second period.
Well, Muni must have deflected it because it certainly was redirected over goaltender Clear.
LeMay tapping in the corner with Tim Waters. It comes to the line, and Neufeld manages to get it out. Can't get away from LeMay, however. Now it's pulled free. Gilles Hamel is stopped at the line. Laurie Boschman follows up and brings it in offside. Hockey night in Canada, a Canadian tradition. Time remaining in the third with the score, Winnipeg 2, Edmonton 2.
Winnipeg has had but 2 shots on goal this period. They only had 4 the second period. So that stat is going in the wrong direction for the Jets.
Charlie Huddy for Dave Hunter. Picked up in his own zone by Dave Ellett. Having problems controlling that puck as he tried to get it out, and then it's banged over the boards and out of play.
I get the impression that Winnipeg, they're back on their heels a little bit now, and it's a very dangerous tactic against Edmonton. I think you have to be sensible defensively and not turn the game wide open, but you got to go after the chances. I mean, this game is still up for grabs. The Jets have got it, the style of play going their way, and they can force some turnovers, as we saw earlier in the game, if they'll get in the Edmonton end and get after them. But it's a long time to fend off a pretty potent team by just dumping it in and then not forechecking and dumping it out every time you get it.
The Jets have really not had a good scoring opportunity since about the 4 or 5 minute mark of the second period. They had the breakaway by Hamel that preceded the goal by Brian Mullen that put them ahead by that 2-1 margin, but they haven't had much since. Ruotsalainen with a shot from the blue line. It's held by Daniel Bertillon, and now some pushing and shoving. Glenn Anderson is involved in the skirmish along with Brad Berry of the Jets, and the 2 linesmen quickly intervene. Ellett and Nielsen were jawing away at each other.
I think Ellett's pretty safe in that one, don't you?
I think so.
Anderson's a disturber, though. I mean, he's a little careless with a stick, and he doesn't mind going in front of the net. If you give him a rough time, you better look out. He's going to come back with an elbow or a high stick. And I suppose if you have to stand in front of the net, take the grease he does, you'd do the same thing.
Well, Berry is drawing a penalty, and Anderson, I think, is going to be going off as well. Although Anderson was a little late in getting to the penalty box. Here's how it all started at the side of the net.
And you can see what Anderson's going through, and there's what I commented on. That's what he does. He knows you're back there, but he doesn't know exactly where. And sometimes it hits you right in the face, and that's what upset the Winnipeg defenseman.
Well, we saw at the start of the period some of the abuse that Anderson took in front of that Winnipeg net in the second period on a power play drive.
Well, he's the Paul McLean in that department of the Edmonton Oilers, who do not have many guys on their top 2 lines that enjoy that place on the ice, and I guess you can't blame them, but somebody has to do it. It's one of those dirty jobs somebody has to do.
Does anybody like doing it? Did you ever coach a player who liked taking the position in front of the net?
Well, you know who did in Vancouver, and he wasn't a big guy, but he scored a ton of goals from there, was Tony Tanti. He had the best hand-eye coordination of any player that I've ever coached. I remember one practice, 6 players got 100 pucks on the blue line with no goaltender, and they slapped him. And Tony Tanti got his stick on every single shot. By the end of it, they were shooting at his head, they were shooting at the back of his legs, and they couldn't get a puck by him.
Well, Tanti's been scoring well for Team Canada over in that World Tournament in Vienna.
Well, he can score goals, there's no question about that, and he gets at least half his on tip-ins.
12:10 remaining in the period following that offside call. Face-off just outside the Winnipeg line. Brought in by the Oilers. Just as quickly dumped out by the Jets. Mario Marois, right wide pass. Hamel with a shot that's high off the glass. Dave Hunter, who scored the tying goal. Getting it up. Ruotsalainen in across the line, but he put himself offside as he fed it to Kevin McClellan with 11:51 left in the period. And I would have to suspect, Harry, that Dan Maloney's strategy coming into this game was to slow down the pace.
Well, he's been very successful doing that. And I think it's frustrating the Oilers that they can't get any rhythm to the game. It's a scrambly hockey game, not the best one we've seen all winter. But if you're a Winnipeg fan, I think Maloney's going about trying to win the best way he can.
Deaconin picks it up off the board, back to the line, low with a shot right on. It was juggled by Bertiom, and then he bounced from top of it. And again, some pushing it. Now Nielsen will take the draw against Boschman. It goes to the corner for Carlisle, Tim Waters. Along the boards, they can't get it out. Over to the other side, it's knocked out by Howarchuk.
I'll be very surprised if we don't see Gretzky play a lot more in the last 10 or 12 minutes of this game than he has in the first 50. He has played very little by his standards. And I don't know whether he had that twinkle in his eye this morning when I saw him, and I thought, uh-oh, I've seen that before, and it usually means trouble for the enemy. But he hasn't dominated, and he hasn't played much. I can't understand it.
Charlie Huddy for Dave Hunter. His pass knocked down in the neutral zone. Now Huddy gets it again for Gretzky. Gretzky feathers it ahead for Curry. In front of the net is Coffey. The pass doesn't get through. Coffey will really take those chances coming in from his blue line position.
Absolutely. If the puck gets deflected past, then you see what we saw in the first Winnipeg goal. He's way up the ice, and it's a 2-on-1 or a 3-on-2.
Many times he does have that great speed that enables him to recover, even though he might be trapped. Gretzky back of the net. Gretzky out front. The shot goes wide off the stick of Hunter. The Oilers really pressuring the Jets. They've hemmed them into their own zone for most of this third period. Now the Jets' Ron Wilson in across the line. Takes the shot. He is partially tied up by Hunter. Comes back to the line for Marois. He keeps it in. Charlie Huddy lays it around for Curry. Curry dumps it up for Gretzky. And Tim Waters got there ahead of the Edmonton Star. Gregg for Gretzky. Gretzky gets away from Carlisle. He was trying to slide it through for Krushelnyski from LeMay, and LeMay was tied up, taken in against the boards by Tim Waters. They continue that battle along the boards. Comes to the line, is kept in by Ruotsalainen. Back to the net for Gretzky, out front for LeMay. He couldn't get a shot away as Waters got to him just in time.
And the puck bounced over his stick, or it would have been 3-2 Edmonton.
Gretzky motors out with LeMay on his wing. Gretzky with a shot off the stick of Marois and up into the crowd. Live on CBC, the Stanley Cup playoffs. Third, 2-2 the score, Game 2. Thursday night here at Northlands Coliseum. Then the series shifts to Winnipeg for Games 3 and 4 on Saturday and Monday. We'll have them all for you on Hockey Night in Canada.
Well, I'm looking forward to going to Winnipeg and watching the new dress code for the Winnipeg Arena. I saw it from the east, and that sea of white was an inspirational happening as far as the Jets were concerned, and that rink has usually been fairly quiet, so I'm anxious to see the new breed that they're bringing to the Winnipeg hockey team.
The White House, as they've now started calling it. Dumped out by the Jets, and racing back after it is Kevin Lowe. Lowe being watched by Neufeld. Has to go around the boards for Muni. Dumped out into the neutral zone. Bradbury, rink wide for Dave Ellett. He shoots it in. 8:44 left in the period. Marty McSorley for Craig Muni. Muni shoots it in. Krushelnyski picks it up for LeMay. LeMay with a shot. Wide. Krushelnyski backing in the corner again with Gilles Hamel. Gets it loose for McSorley. He tries to go back to Krushelnyski, and it's knocked down by Hamel out to Ray Neufeld. He has Boschman with him coming in across the line. Neufeld working against Coffey. It's tied up by the Edmonton defenseman. They got the puck between their skates, and that results in a whistle.
Well, Winnipeg still sits at 2 shots with 8:05 to go. Unless they're hiding that big shot, I think they should try and get a few more. When you get a chance to get some shots at a goalie who's only had 6 in the last 20 minutes or so, he may give you a goal.
Well, for the Winnipeg Jets, their big line has been They're most effective in the playoffs, and the Howard Chuck McLean Mullen unit is out there right now. From the face-off, Charlie Huddy is back behind his own net. Playing it for Kent Nielsen. He loses it there to Dale Howardchuck. At the line, Mullen is stopped. Mullen continues battling for it. Dumped in by Winnipeg and fired right back out by the Oilers. Coffey runs into a check in the center ice area from Tim Waters. Here's a lead pass for Howardchuck. Howardchuck puts on the brakes. Tried to center it for Mullen. It didn't get through. Mullen backing in the corner with Kent Nielsen as McLean is upset by Coffey. Nielsen kept right in front of his own net. Almost lost it there to Howardchuck. Now it's Brian Mullen gaining control in the center ice area. Mullen too far for Carlisle, and Huddy starts back. His pass to Anderson, to Messier. With Nielsen across the line, they run into each other as they attempted to cross. Back comes Winnipeg. Carlisle, long shot, that sails wide. At the point, Marois manages to keep it in. Marois is tied up by Messier as it's dumped out with 6:58 left in the period.
That was quite a check that Anderson threw on Messier, or Messier threw on Anderson, and it nearly resulted in a nice odd man situation rush for Winnipeg.
Kite to Doug Smale. Smale trying to get away from Curry, can't, but Jim Kite picks up the loose puck and dumps it in. Kekkonen chased back into his own zone by Ron Wilson. Wilson ties him up. McBain is in there trying to kick it free. It does come loose. It goes back at the Edmonton net. Pass intercepted by McBain. McBain attempted to go around Greg. Greg knocked it away from him. Kekkonen plays it around the boards. Kept in by Jim Kite. McBain having trouble with Greg. It's centered. Got picked up by the Oilers. Through the line. Gretzky forced back in before giving it to Rotsalainen, and then he gives it back to Gretzky. Gretzky went across the Winnipeg line. Got pass. Picked off by Boston. Boston controls it. He couldn't find anybody to pass it to. Now he dumps it out into the neutral zone. 5:49 remaining in the third period. The score tied at 2. Loose puck at the side of the net. Daniel Bergeron throws it around to the other side as the Jets start back. Led by Neufeld. He has Rooney and Boston with him. Neufeld moving into the slot. For Gilles Hamel now, and Hamel is upset as it goes to the corner, and Kevin Lowe plays it up along the boards for Gretzky. Out into the center ice area, broken up by Carlisle as he fired it back in. It's offside with 5:24 left in the third.
A little bit. Waters, who isn't known to be a bone-crushing body checker, had Coffey in his sights. And I think he was reveling in the thought of what he might do to him if Coffey didn't look up.
Waters is that antagonist that each club likes to have.
Sure is that. And he picks on usually the other team's best players to antagonize the most, which makes him a valuable commodity for the Winnipeg Jets.
Assistant captain of the Jets gets it around on the boards for McLean. He can't get out. McClellan takes a shot and stopped by Bergeron. Howardchuck plays it high off the boards and down the ice. No icing on this one as Kevin Lowe goes back into his own zone for Mo LeMay. He shoots it in. Bergeron leads it back to the net for Kite. Around the boards for Paul McLean. McLean dumps it ahead for Howardchuck. He just let it go as he was being watched by Paul Coffey. Jets make a line change now with 4:27 left in the period. Coffey fires it in back to the net. Left there for the Winnipeg defenseman. He gets it ahead to Ron Wilson. Ron Wilson with Doug Smale. In across the line, checked by Coffey, who recovered nicely. And back comes Marty McSorley for the Oilers. 4:10 remaining in the third. Marois plays it around on the boards. Kept in by Krushelnyski. He's being watched by Smale. Krushelnyski falls in the corner. They've got the puck in their skates. Finally, it's kicked free. Picked up by Ron Wilson. For Jim Kite. He has Andrew McBain with him. Kite with a long shot, steered to the corner. McBain plays it around the boards to the other side. Picked off there by Krushelnyski, who brings it out for Edmonton. Long shot that hits the glass back of the net, and Tim Waters has it for Winnipeg. Smale ahead to Boschman. Boschman on the wing for Carlisle, but it's offside.
There is such an animal in the playoffs against the former Stanley Cup champions. He looks like he's just playing junior hockey against another team from Quebec.
3:28 remaining. Draw comes back to Marois. He tried to shoot it in. It hit the padding just beside the Edmonton Oilers bench and ricocheted back out to the neutral zone. Padding is on the glass at the side of the bench. Now it's Kite laying it out to center ice, dumped back in. Mario Marois has it. Rink-wide pass as he was looking over on the wing for Hamel. Broken up by Edmonton and shot in was Marois getting around the boards for Neufeld. Neufeld's pass broken up by Gretzky. He dumped it to the line, stopped there by Kite. Fired back into the Oilers zone. Kevin Lowe lays it out to center ice with 2:44 remaining. Drops the line and drops it for Gretzky. Gretzky fell as he overskated it and backed up to Winnipeg. 2-on-2. Neufeld through the line. Gets it over to Hamel. A shot was saved by Grant Fuhr. Neufeld brought up. That somebody is usually Gretzky.
And he's coming out the door furthest up the ice, while the guy going on the change is going in the door closest to the net. Sometimes they can make up 15 feet without having to skate.
Gaining almost an entire zone. Loose puck in the Winnipeg zone. Carlisle unable to get it out, but now it's knocked away from Anderson by Howardchuk. His rink-wide pass broken up by Messier and fired back in. Carlisle chased back to the zone net by Kent Nielsen. Carlisle gets it ahead to Ryan Mullen. He has Howardchuk with him along with McLean. Over to McLean. A shot that doesn't get through. It was blocked. Now Howardchuk has it. He's knocked off the puck by Muni. It goes back to the net to Kent Nielsen. And the Oilers start back. For Messier, he dodges the check for Mullen. In across the line. Back to the point. He takes the shot and goes right to the goal crease. And then is scared away, and Glenn Anderson runs into that Winnipeg net. He may have been assisted in hitting that Winnipeg goal, taking it off the flooring, resulting in a whistle. But we talked earlier, Harry, about how Paul Coffey comes in late in the play, and he was set up perfectly there.
It's almost impossible on a rush to find the fourth man. And right here, the fourth man was hard to find. Now watch Mullen give it to Anderson. And Anderson hits the crossbar, and that knocks the net right off. Coming right here. Anderson doesn't see him coming. Watch the hit he takes. Those kind hurt.
Double teaming Glenn Anderson, Mullen, and Marois.
As although there's a minute 34 to go, for all intents and purposes, I think we're in overtime.
Here's Coffey at the line. Into the slot. Hunter took a shot, a weak one, as he was tied up by Jim Kite. Ron Wilson trying to dump it out, put it in. However, if we do go into extra time, Harry, I hope that isn't anything close to what you experienced at the Capitol Center on Saturday night.
Well, I hope if we go into overtime that the overtime periods are as absolutely exciting as those ones were.
Battle along the boards in the Winnipeg zone. It comes loose to Hunter. His shot goes wide. Charlie Huddy keeps it in. It's Tavish in the corner. Bumping with Boston. Still gets the puck. Tavish now is tied up and the Jets in control. We're into the final minute. To Ron Wilson. Wilson in that Edmonton zone. Flips it high around the glass. The Jets keep it in. Back to the net. Huddy plays it for McClellan. He takes a puck from Ron Wilson. Jets doing some forechecking here in that Edmonton zone, but the Oilers get it out. It's deflected down the ice as Edmonton makes a change with 30 seconds remaining in the third. Tim Waters gets it ahead to Doug Smale. He deflects it out. Dumped back in by the Oilers. Tim Waters has it again. Off the boards and down the ice with 20 seconds left in the third. Messier will try it now for Edmonton. Looking for Anderson, breaking down that left side, but a little too far for him. 10 seconds left in this third period. I think it's definite. We are going to overtime as it's dumped down the ice, and that will end the period. Mullen and McLean, Messier, Nielsen, and Anderson for Edmonton. The overtime session underway. Carlisle gets it ahead to Mullen. Mullen moves it ahead to McLean. He dumps it in, and Craig Muni retreats for the Oilers. It almost seems as though the game plan of the Oilers is to try and have Muni out there on defense each time Dale Howarchuk is out there for the Jets.
Well, Muni and Lowe are the top plus-minus defensemen on the Edmonton team, so that does make some sense.
Kent Nielsen ahead for Messier. Messier left it for Anderson. Working against him. Wanted to score!
Well, it didn't take very long, and Anderson, who found out he couldn't beat the defenseman, he elected to shoot it through him. And I don't know whether Berthiaume saw that puck or not. It went right between his legs, which probably indicates he didn't see it all the way.
That only took 36 seconds as Glenn Anderson puts an end to overtime here at Northlands Coliseum in a 3-2 Edmonton Oiler win.
Well, I think that Maloney's plan was effective, but when it gets into overtime, you can't afford a mistake, obviously. Now watch Anderson. He knows he can't beat Waters. So instead of going wide, which he usually does, he shoots it right past him. And I don't know whether Berthiaume was anticipating Anderson going wide and making that famous cut-in move that he knows that he can do so well, but he didn't look quite ready for it. As you can see, the shot just went by Waters, and Berthiaume had the 5-hole uncovered, and that's where it went, and the game's over.
Anderson's 6th goal of the playoffs, his 2nd of the game. Messier and Nielsen drawing assists at 36 seconds of overtime as the Oilers win Game 1 of this Smythe Division Final.
Do you like good music? That sweet soul music. Just rolling and swinging. Oh yeah, oh yeah. We out here on the floor, y'all. I'm going to a go-go. Dancing with the music. Oh yeah.
Molson Canadian. Taste that'll stop you cold.
Here are the Molson 3 stars of tonight's game. Glenn Anderson, the scoring hero with 2, including the overtime marker at the 36-second mark. Kevin McClellan played a strong game. This was a game that was played a lot along the boards. McClellan did well there, and Daniel Berthiaume, despite that goal, is the 3rd star. And so the Winnipeg Jets' frustration in playoff competition against the Edmonton Oilers continues. It is now 11 consecutive games in the playoffs without a win for the Jets against the Oilers. Glenn Anderson's goal not as quick as Brian Skrudland's in our trivia contest from last year's Stanley Cup final, which was at 9 seconds, but at 36 seconds he gives the Oilers a 1-0 lead in this series, an important goal indeed, because the Jets played the game plan they wanted coming in and thought they could steal one here at the Northlands Coliseum. Now let's go up and rejoin Don and Harry.
Harry, that didn't take long at all.
Well, if you're going to have an overtime game in, you might as well end it in a hurry. It looked like a harmless rush. The Waters played very well, and the goaltender Berthiaume either didn't see it or didn't play it very well.
He may have been partially screened by Waters, who was working against Anderson, as Anderson let that shot go just off the end of Waters' stick, it appeared.
Well, have a look at it here, and you can see that Anderson, on a crisscross, looks like he wants to go outside Waters, sees he can't, and then just lets a wrist shot go from a bit of a bad angle, and it goes in the net. And maybe the young goaltender thought, hey, Anderson, I know what he does. He cuts in off the wing, goes right across in front of the net, throws the defenseman aside, and puts it in the roof of the net, but didn't happen. 2nd
goal of the game for Glenn Anderson, the overtime winner. A good hockey game, a good road game for the Winnipeg Jets, 3-2. Can they play that same disciplined, patient style in Game 2 Thursday?
Well, I think they have to be encouraged about how they played and their chances of winning the game. The discouraging part is that overtime, it's a bitter pill to swallow to lose it, and they don't want to go back to Winnipeg without a win, and now they have one night to do it. And I don't know if they go back to Winnipeg losing 2 that they can win 4-5 against Edmonton.
From a coaching standpoint, when you open a series on the road, is the objective to get a split, obviously to win 2? If you get a split, you're happy. But is the first game that important?
I think against Edmonton it will be the easiest game. Edmonton has a history of taking their opponents a little nonchalantly, and I think they did tonight, to be truthful, against Winnipeg. And now Edmonton knows, hey, this is going to be a tough series. Winnipeg is not a pushover, And so I think they're going to be a little better prepared, and the layoff will not be a factor. Now they've got that out of the way. So Winnipeg's going to have to play better to get the same chance to win that they got tonight.
Well, that certainly happened in the Los Angeles series, where Los Angeles won the first game 5-2, and Edmonton bounced back 13-3 in the second.
I don't think we'll see a 13-3 game, but I do think we'll see more goals. And Winnipeg's a good offensive team. Perhaps if there's one complaint, that playing so defensively that they didn't take advantage of some of the talent they have offensively.
They didn't have many scoring opportunities, only 7 shots on goal in the final 40 minutes.
Well, I think if you were keeping a good scoring opportunity chart, they probably had less than 5, and the average is between 13 and 20 on a normal game. You have to have awful good sharpshooting to score as many as you have to score to win with only 5 good chances.
Well, the Edmonton Oilers made the most of their only opportunity in overtime for the 3-2 win. Now let's go to Chris Cuthbert.
And Don Wayne Gretzky has joined me now. Wayne, did the Oilers watch the game Saturday night and say we don't want to go 4 overtime periods?
Well, I think that we all watched the game, and I think that our style is completely different than those two teams, and that we go after it, and we forecheck, and we send 2 and 3 guys in, and I think they were forechecking 1 guy, and that's prolonged the game a little bit, but we were just going to go right after them, try to make them make a turnover, and fortunately for us, we scored right off the bat.
Wayne, thanks for dropping in. The Oilers with a 1-0 lead in the series on Glenn Anderson's game-winning goal. 3-2 the final score as the Oilers take Game 1. We will have Game 2 for you on Thursday night here at the Northlands Coliseum. Join us 7:30 Mountain, 8:30 Central for that game. Now, good night from Hockey Night in Canada.
Live on CBC, Hockey Night in Canada. Brought to you by Molson Canadian, a taste that'll stop you cold. Esso, makers of ProTech Ultra Engine Oil, protection for your engine's future. And by Ford of Canada, where quality is more than a commitment, quality is job one.
The following has been a presentation of CBC Sports in cooperation with Omeyer Communication.
They saw tainted tuna. We saw political interference.
400 jobs at stake.
Each week, the Fifth Estate gets at the real story. See for yourself, Wednesday.
The price they paid for blowing away Chicago in 4 straight. Let's find out and go to Detroit Maple Leafs and visiting blue, Dan Deo's 70-foot blast in the first period caught Detroit goalie Greg Stefan looking like he hadn't seen a puck in 9 days. 1-0 Toronto. Wings soon tied it. Then late in the period, a long-distance shot by Mike O'Connell. A soft goal given up by Reggett. Detroit led 2-1, but the Leafs came out flying. Russ Courtnall threaded a beautiful pass to Rick Vibe. He beat everybody and tied the game a few minutes later. Vibe off the faceoff with a routine shot on goal, a loose rebound. Nobody checked Wendell Clark, who glided in and put the Leafs ahead 3-2. Poor Detroit defense there. And a little later, more shaky goaltending. Todd Gill threw one through a screen. Stefan never picked it up. 4-2, Maple Leafs. Toronto then went into a defensive shell. The Wings poured on the heat in the final period. But Reggett closed the door, and when he couldn't, the defense chipped in and rested the case. Toronto beat Detroit 4-2. Game 2 set for Thursday night again in Detroit. The other series getting underway tonight. They've moved to the 3rd period at Northlands Coliseum in Edmonton. The Oilers having a tough time with the Jets, tied at 2. Jim?
And now, as Nick promised, our nightly team catches Darryl Strawberry leading too far off second base, gets him for the second out, and then Denny Gonzalez throws out Gary Carter trying to score from third. There you get Strawberry for two, and they throw it home to get Gary Carter, who gives a nice little head fake here, but it doesn't work. And that's your third out, your basic 4-3 to 6-2. If you're keeping score, play of the day.
Hello, sports fans. We got something to sing about in Detroit. It's a Norris Division Final hockey action, Game 1. And Toronto coach John Brophy is pretty happy about that, too, as his Leafs come into town. Okay, the Leafs from behind their own net. And it's Dan Daou with the blast. Just beyond the point, the first goal of the game puts Toronto up 1-0. Daou goal at 12:29. Salming and Regard on the assist, and then it's the Wings on the attack. It's Mel Bridgman who scored for Detroit to tie it up 1-1. A Bridgman goal at 17:44, assists by Sean Burr and Bob Probert. See that goal again. Then Mike O'Connell with this long blast. Look where he winds up from. But it gets right in there. And Detroit goes up 2-1. O'Connell goal at 18:15. We see that again. It appears that the goalie was blocked a little bit. Fans are having a good time with it. After one period of play, 2-1, Detroit up top. But their luck will turn away quickly in the second period. After Rick Vives ties the game 2-2 with a goal at 1:25, then it'll be Wendell Clark who puts in this rebound right here of Rick Vives' shot. The Clark goal at 5:02 puts Toronto up 3-2. Toronto bench happy about that. Then here, Wings attempt to clear the shot. It's intercepted by Todd Gill. Gill shoots and it scores. It seems that Mike Allison was standing in front of the net, but he doesn't touch the puck. Give the goal to Todd Gill at 7:55. That makes 3 Leaf quick goals in a row. And after 2 periods of play, it's 4-2, Toronto up top. The Red Wings players are sporting some long faces as they realize that the 3 goals that they let get by in the second period might be their demise. And they are absolutely correct. There is no scoring in the third period. The Toronto Maple Leaf leads holds up. It's 4-2 Toronto. They lead the series over the Detroit Red Wings 1-0. Toronto wins 4-2.
The Edmonton Oilers defeated the Winnipeg Jets tonight 3-2 in overtime to take the first game of their Smythe Division final playoff series. The score tied at 1. Dale Howardchuk tipped in a puck at 2:32 of the second period for a 6th playoff goal, giving the Jets a 2-1 lead. But at 11:27 of the second period, Dave Hunter scored from Craig McTavish and Kevin McClelland, his first of the playoffs, beating Daniel Berthiaume, tie the game at 2. With his victory tonight, Edmonton has now taken 11 straight playoff games from the Jets. Third period action, and the Oilers think they have a goal when Marty McSorley stuffs the puck in. But as we shall see, the net was knocked from its magnets, and referee Kerry Fraser correctly rules no goal, so we remain tied at 2. Grant Fuhr in net for the Oilers keeps the game tied at 2. Late in third period, when Gilles Hamel tries to sneak a shot past him, but Fuhr closes the pads, and we will travel to overtime. Only after we take another look at that save. Gilles Hamel winding up, but Fuhr equal to the task. Didn't take long in overtime for the Oilers to score. Just 36 seconds in, Glenn Anderson using the defenseman as a screen, putting it in, his 6th playoff goal. And the Oilers win 3-2. Mark Messier and Kent Nielsen assist. Glenn Anderson netting the game winner. And the Oilers take Game 1 of the Smythe Division playoffs. Roger Clemens has the ball tonight for the Boston Red Sox as they host the Kansas City Royals. Here he is, top of the first inning, looking like the Roger Clemens of last year and not like his 0-2 record of this year, as he gets Kevin Seitzer with a fastball in the outside corner. Two men will drive in all the runs tonight for the Boston Red Sox. Rick Anderson, the starter for the Royals, faces Dwight Evans in the bottom of the second, no outs, men at first and second. And Dewey puts one off the monster in left field. That's good for one run. Jim Rice scores, making 1-0 Boston. And the Sox fans like it, and Jock McNamara seems to be indifferent. But we all know he certainly appreciates Evans' effort, along with the effort of Bill Buckner. Buckner with a single into the right field corner right here scores Ed Romero and Wade Boggs in the bottom of the third inning to make it 3-0 Boston. So it's Dwight Evans and Bill Buckner doing all the damage tonight. Here's Evans once again, still in the bottom of the third as he lines one into left center field. That'll score Buckner along with Jim Rice to make it 5-0 Boston. Evans out easily trying to stretch it into a double. Bottom of the fourth inning, and it's Bill Buckner's turn again. Got a couple of men on board with the infield in, and he finds a hole, scoring at Glenn Hoffman and Ed Romero. 4 RBIs for Buckner, making it 7-0 Boston in the bottom of the fourth inning. Meanwhile, Roger Clemens working on a no-hitter, but that no-hitter was broken up here in the top of the seventh inning when Frank White drops in a single. First base hit of the ball game for the Royals, but the fans certainly appreciate the efforts of Roger Clemens. Danny Tartable will later get a single. The Royals will add a third hit in the ball game. That is all the base hits Clemens will give up. Meanwhile, Dwight Evans still isn't done yet. Bottom of the seventh inning, and to match Bill Buckner's total of 4 RBIs, Evans hits a home run over the center field wall. So he's got 4 RBIs on the night, making